After 35, our mental processes begin to change quietly and consistently. What used to come easily, such as focusing, remembering, and switching tasks, now requires more effort. These changes are not dramatic, but systematic and especially noticeable. In the digital environment where the brain is overloaded with fragmented information, understanding the mechanisms behind these shifts is the first step toward maintaining mental clarity and resilient attention. After 35, the brain changes quietly and steadily. Gray matter on average begins to shrink by fractions of a percent per year, most noticeably in regions responsible for planning attention and impulse control. Myelin. The insulation of nerve fibers wears down and signals travel a little more slowly. Plasticity does not disappear, but it no longer fires as easily as in your 20s. A new skill takes more repetition and time. At the same time, crystallized. Intelligence, knowledge, vocabulary. Professional schemas often grows, and it becomes the main support for complex tasks where meaning and context matter more than reaction speed. Working memory remains a narrow bottleneck. It holds about 4 items at once. When you keep a task, a number, a name in mind, and also try to reply to a message, any new notification knocks out one of the bricks. Task switching has a cost. The brain needs time to return to the previous context, and with age, this cost becomes more noticeable. Not because the strength is not the same anymore, but because the systems that control and filter distractions become more expensive to run. Dopamine circuits, the systems of interest and novelty, become less reactive. The brain stops jumping at everything new and asks for more meaning per unit of effort. This is not bad. Motivation becomes more selective. But alongside this, the digital environment serves short, bright stimuli such as feeds, clips, and notifications, and plays on the difference in potentials. Fast dopamine against prolonged concentration. As a result, long tasks feel more sluggish by contrast. The screen environment amplifies this effect mechanically. Short videos, clickable headlines, and pop-up notifications create a mode of constant micro-switches. Each one is a small cold start for the prefrontal cortex. After an hour of such jolts, you feel fatigue. It is easily mistaken for a drop in resources. In essence, it is the accumulated interruption tax. Over the long run, this trains not focus, but the expectation of the next stimulus. Sleep in this picture is not just rest, but a technical pause for brain systems. During deep stages, memory traces are strengthened, and the glymphatic system more actively clears metabolic byproducts. Blue spectrum light in the evening suppresses melatonin production and shifts circadian rhythms, so another 10 minutes of scrolling before bed often becomes an extra hour of wakefulness and lighter sleep. In the morning, this feels not like simply getting too little sleep, but like slowed thinking and increased distractibility. Attention is a rhythmic resource. Work blocks of 40 to 60 minutes with short micro breaks work well. Stand up, look into the distance, and walk for a couple of minutes. When you look at a screen, you blink less, and that causes dryness and strain. A simple pause to shift your gaze to a distant point reduces load. For many, the 20-20-20 rule helps. Every 20 minutes, look at an object about 6 meters away for 20 seconds. This is not a productivity hack, but hygiene for attention and eyes. Group complex tasks into dedicated depth windows. Disable non-essential notifications in advance, prepare everything you need, and set a clear question for the work block. It is easier for the brain to enter flow when the entry threshold is minimal. The document is already open, the materials are. Nearby, the goals are clear. After 35, preparation often matters more than willpower. By reducing the number of decisions at the start, you save fuel for the semantic part of the work. And yes, one window for one type of task. Mixing breaks the rhythm. Physical exercise is a direct biological lever. Aerobic training increases levels of neurotrophic factors such as BDNF, which support neuron survival and the formation of new connections. This shows up not as instant clear-headedness, but as more stable concentration and lower fatigue over the span of weeks. Strength training is no less important. Muscle mass provides hormonal and metabolic support for the brain through glucose and insulin control. Nutrition affects not only the body, but also neurochemistry. Long intervals without food combined with coffee and screens increase the tendency toward fast decisions and click-based content consumption. A stable breakfast with protein-adequate hydration and foods rich in omega-3 is about stable attention and an even baseline, not about diets. Deficiencies of B12, folate, iron, and vitamin D often present as brain fog. They should be tested and corrected under medical guidance. Content matters. Long textbooks and long reads train the retention of context and causal chains. Short clips train reactivity to novelty. It is useful to separate these modes on purpose. Morning blocks for long reading and deep work. Evening for lighter formats without stimulating light and emotional load. If you want to scroll before sleep, it is better to switch the device to a warm color temperature and lower the brightness. Better yet, choose paper. Social connections are not psychology for the sake of psychology. They are cognitive training, in real time. Dialogue requires memory, attention, flexibility, and reading nonverbal signals. Live communication reduces subjective screen fatigue and increases tolerance for uncertainty, which the digital environment often breaks into simple stimuli. Paradoxically, an hour of conversation can give more clarity than an hour of scrolling supposedly useful materials. It is useful to assess your fatigue profile honestly. For some, reaction speed suffers more. For others, working memory. For others, sustained attention. This determines how to tune the environment. Some people must silence notifications aggressively. Some must break work into short segments. Some must reduce visual noise on the desktop. There are no universal recipes. There are universal levers. Light sleep, movement, stimulus regime, and clear work blocks. Finally, treat yourself as a system with delays. If you binge on screens in the evening today, the effect will hit tomorrow morning. If you add 3 40-minute cardio sessions per week, the effect on concentration will appear in a couple of weeks. If you stop keeping the messenger on the first screen and check it in batches 3 or 4 times a day, the background anxiety of expectation will drop after a few days. The brain after 35 is not being capricious. It requires predictability and meaningful stimuli. When it gets them, clarity returns not as a flash, but as a stable level. The mature brain is not a weaker copy of the past, but a more selective and demanding system. Its effectiveness depends less on natural resources and more on environmental quality, stimulus regimen, and physical habits. Respecting its needs is not a limitation, but a way to maximize experience, knowledge, and meaning. With sensible calibration, the brain responds with stability, clarity, and resilience that are far more valuable than quick bursts of speed.